Shane O'Donnell, good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks very much for having me on.
Not at all. How are things?
Great. Yeah, things are good. Good. Nearly morning now, but not so bad.
There's plenty to talk about. We want to get stuck into the Munster final. Limerick against Tip this weekend. You've obviously come up against both sides this year. Disappointing results from a Clare perspective, obviously. But did you see anything firsthand that suggests that these are the two teams that have pulled away from the rest of the country? Because that seems to be the discourse, that we're not only watching a Munster final this Sunday, but potentially a preview of the All-Ireland final.
Yeah, well, that seems to be what everyone is talking about, right? And obviously they're two very good teams, but I definitely wouldn't go as far as saying that, that they're going to walk through a Leinster team when it comes down to it. But it's definitely an interesting proposition, right, in the weekend. Like, they're two very different teams when you're playing against them, and as you said, obviously it didn't quite work out for us, so maybe some of your listeners will be like, why is he telling us about it? But Limerick are a very kind of tactically rigid they set up as a very solid structure, and it's all about kind of unlocking that structure. And like, we would have beaten them last year because we kind of got to grips with that structure, and then would have been walked over this year for the same reason, because we didn't. So I think it's a lot. Playing at Limerick is a very tactical kind of game coming up against Tip. And Tip then are just, everyone is talking about them for a reason. They're playing extremely well, and their players are all on form. But this will definitely be their biggest challenge, I'd imagine.
That's very interesting, especially on Limerick there, the tactical rigidity that they bring to the game. Is there a sort of situation that if you get your tactics just a little bit wrong against Limerick, it kind of opens the floodgates?
Yes, small bit, yeah. You find yourself just batting the ball against the wall sometimes. They've set up so solid towards the back that it's just kind of, unless you have a plan coming in that is working on the day, it's very difficult to manoeuvre in the game, because the natural movements that forwards and stuff would make, they're locking them down, because that's obviously their game plan. So the kind of flow of trying to work yourself back into a game, I think, is more difficult against Limerick. So it can be very tactical, but at the same time, if you can get on top of it, you can get a lot of fruit from the work you're putting in.
Are they man marking, Shane, or are they kind of zonal marking in the defence, or is it just that they've lots of bodies back, or how, what way are they trying to play it?
Yeah, well, we felt that they were zoning in the half back line. Their two midfields are coming back right on top of their half forward or their half back line, and their half forwards are pulling well into midfield. But that the biggest thing is that their half backs are almost a standing on half back, regardless of what their man is doing. And then that the midfielders kind of picking up the slack just makes it very difficult for the runs you're trying to make as an inside forward, or even the man in the hole or anything. Like, that wing back spot is usually your go-to area to find some space and to make a run, or to even just open up by moving into an area to get your man out of the way. Because if you're running out of wing back, your man's just going to stand in his position, because you're of no threat to anyone. So it just kind of makes it very difficult to kind of manoeuvre space in all positions, because those main areas of space are kind of locked down.
Right, so the ball into you basically as a corner forward needs to be absolutely on the money if you're going to have success against that Limerick defence.
Yeah, basically. And you have a lot less space. You're trying to manoeuvre just in the full forward line then, which is obviously is quite difficult, because that's what the full-backs are hoping that it comes down to, that kind of thing, that you can't kind of create a greater chaos in the forwards, that everyone is kind of moving and opening up space, that you're kind of left to your own, to fight your own battle, basically, but to win that ball that is not the ball you really want, where like the ball has to be played, the man is right behind you, and so it's just going to come down to a great touch or you lose the ball.
Like, one of the ways of counteracting that, I'd imagine, correct me if I'm wrong here, is potentially running at that half-back line, just taking the ball and just trying to burst through them instead of playing the ball over that. Now, Tipperary this weekend are missing Bonner Maher, so after what you said there, the idea of his loss, the magnitude of that is even greater. Yeah,
absolutely, and he's one of the best in the country for just taking on those balls in a bit of brute force and just making his way through a half-foot back line. But it's difficult, because to get that run going, the midfielders tend to be coming back onto that, so even if you break a half-back line, the midfielders are tracking so deep then that they'd almost pick you up. But Bonner is certainly a huge loss, obviously. But on top of them playing Limerick now, it's even more significant, as you said.
So what do you suggest Tipperary do? What is the way around this? I know they will have learned a lot from day one. They obviously got the win against them on day one, but this is going to be a vastly different team. 3 or 4 changes you'd expect.
Yeah, I don't think that you can't really anything into the prior game. I think, to be honest, they nearly have to play Limerick at their own game. I think pull their half-forward line into midfield, just make the midfield an absolute battle zone, and then just let Limerick's half-back line, if they want to sit, they can sit, but their men are in midfield collecting ball and shooting, and Tipper, fantastic team at long-range scores. So I think that's how they should kind of address this sitting half-back line. Just put the pressure on the backs, being like, okay, well, the full back line isn't getting that much ball, but your man has scored 3 points in midfield. Like, so then they start to feel the personal pressure that, okay, my man is doing damage here. So then they get to make that decision. So I think put the pressure back onto Limerick backs to make the decision, to be honest.
Right, okay. So basically, you need to get the ball down the throat of Tipperary. They'll back themselves in midfield. We've seen that they're possibly more physical than any other team in the country in that department, and that could be where you get at Limerick. Like, to what extent can that work, and to what extent has it been tried before, actually, Sheahan? Because it seems like a tactic that could actually hurt Limerick.
Yeah, it gets tried quite often, I think. But sometimes you need your backs to be playing quite well, and you need them to be playing confidently, because you can't just launch any ball that you're under pressure. You need them to be breaking their man and to get their heads up and playing ball to midfield, 30, 40 accurate yard stick passes. Because if you launch ball, it'll land straight on their half back line. So you need your backs to be kind of not on top, but definitely confident and playing with confidence and being willing to get their heads up and look for men. Because obviously the half back line is a no-go if you're going to be playing that kind of game. But yeah, just like a hand pass or two getting out of the backs, you need that kind of stuff going, and then 30-yard stick pass to a man free. And with that kind of setup, there should be a man free in midfield. So then that's kind of the approach you try to take.
Just a final point on this game, the role of Aaron Gillan. It's been said so many times over the past couple of weeks that he's unbelievably special as an inside forward. It could have been even asked, are Limerick a little bit too reliant on him? What's your take on Aaron Gillan? What is it exactly about him that makes him so special?
I think his percentage rate of how much ball he retains that goes in, even difficult ball in the air, it doesn't really seem to matter. He seems to have extremely high percentage of just getting ball to hand, and they do set up very well, and they tend to give him the space to operate, but still every ball that goes in fairness to him, he managed to get his hand on, and it's just extremely dangerous that he can catch those balls that are kind of awkward that a back might commit to, and then suddenly he's around the back, like, and he's in on goal. So those kind of opportunities seem to present themselves to him more than any other, really, in the Limerick full forward line or forwards, because he just is able to claim those balls that are almost 50-50 balls that the back feels confident to go for, but if he wins them, then they're exposed. So I think he's extremely dangerous in that department, in those kind of 50-50 balls.
It's kind of like an ability to win his own ball, and obviously what he can do on the ball himself is unreal as well. Is there an instinctive nature to that? Is there something that he does that you can learn, that you can train on?
I think it's easy to say it's just instinctual, but obviously there's a huge amount of training, and I think being a free taker, he obviously puts a huge amount of time into that. I think that gives you a certain element of confidence in basic skills like striking, that kind of thing, and even just confidence on the ball. And it kind of gets you into the game. That kind of stuff in a full forward line makes a big difference. I know people mention it quite a lot, but feeling like you're in the game helps a lot. You can go along swaths of this game in the full forward line with 5 or 10 minutes in a row where you don't actually get a ball, or a ball doesn't come near you, never mind get a ball. So I feel like it's a good having your full forward line, a member of your full forward line taking frees. But he's obviously has all the basic skills down to a T. But I think the 50-50 balls, that how is a percentage of return from them is what kind of makes him stand out in the Limerick team.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. Like, another forward you wanted to get your take on is TJ Reid ahead of the Leinster final this weekend, and the reliance on one forward. And the interesting narrative that we now have going into this game is the job that Matthew O'Hanlon did on him in the last game they played, nullifying him from play. How does TJ Reid react to that? How does he adapt this Sunday?
Yeah, it's certainly difficult. And when you've basically Wexford's entire plan was built around stopping TJ, and it's difficult to manoeuvre out of that as one player. But he's probably the best hurler in the country, and it's an exceptional player. So I wouldn't be surprised, and Kilkenny will know that, especially that they've got pre-warning coming into this game that this is exactly what's going to happen, and especially who's going to be marking. So I think I'm sure there's weaknesses to what did happen, but I think he just needs to maybe go back to pitch a small bit more, try to pick up ball and just get into the game a small bit. Feel like if you're around the half forward line and you're being man marked, it's extremely difficult to find space, because the person it's not a usual position to have someone right up on top of you, and usually you just kind of come onto ball, get hand pass, get stick pass, and those balls won't be played to you if there's someone on you. Like, if to the full forward line, there's always being expected to see a person on you, but I think he maybe just needs to come back to pitch a small bit deeper, try to collect breaking ball off half back line, or even deeper again, just collecting primary possession from the backs and then try and build from them. He mightn't have I'm sure Kilkenny would love to always have him in centre forward with the ball in hand, but he might need to get himself into the game by just coming back to pitch a small bit.
It's interesting as well in the context of the big games you've played. And Derek McGrath, the Irish Examiner, this morning, he reckons Davy is going to go with the same game plan this weekend as he did with you guys in the 2013 replay. He said many observers described Clare on that day taking off the shackles. The reality was a detailed plan manifesting itself in Croke Park on the biggest day of all. He said Tony Kelly would be man-marked, so Davy played him at 11 and let him wander from D to D. Podge Collins and Conor McGrath then in the corners and 45 yards or further from the goal. The fact that they were tied by man-markers duly opened the field for Dara Conan and yourself, Sheahan, in the replay to wreak havoc on the edge of the square. Can you see Wexford going with something similar this weekend?
Yeah, I can. It can be. It's a great tactic if it works. Obviously, I like all tactics, I guess, but it can be shut down efficiently enough. I think if the other team commit to spending an extra man or something like that, a man in front of a one-man forward line will crucify that. Like, it's a 2v1 on every ball. Any time a person breaks, the half back them starts going for goal, there's an extra man there, and it kind of negates the real threat. You'll get scores, you'll get points from balls being passed back out, and obviously you'll have an extra man to be able to build play. But I think if Kilkenny committed a sweeper to that, I know sweeper is a dirty word almost, but if they committed a sweeper to 1v1 inside, I think that would almost negate that threat. But if they don't, it's an extremely dangerous, a game can turn, like, you can get goals and goals from especially from runners running through. If anyone breaks, then it's open season in front, and the corner forwards tend to make hay as well out the pitch because their backs are used to the very tight, kind of rigid full back line, and they're ended up out the pitch picking up ball and being able to play it into that one man. But if Kilkenny committed a man to get an extra man back there, I think it would really negate that threat.
Yeah. Do you see a Davy Fitzgerald stamp that was similar to your Clare team on this Wexford team?
Yeah. It's very similar, and obviously the personnel is differently, and the way he's planning to exploit with those personnel is going to be a bit different. But the broad tactic, is definitely the same idea. To try and open up as much space as possible and just don't get runners especially, but even just get that 1v1 inside. Is definitely what he's trying to look for.
What way are you calling these games this weekend, Sheahan?
Yeah, I was thinking about that this morning. I'm not really sure. Like, the Munster final, Tip are obviously favourites, and for good reason. But I just feel like if Tip can't get tactically on top, and especially as you mentioned with Bonner being gone, if they can't tactically get on top, I think it could really come down to it. And I'd nearly give Limerick the tip for it. For the Leinster final, I think you have to go with Kilkenny. Obviously, nullifying TJ was a massive part of that game, but to do that 2 days in a row is extremely difficult. As difficult as do one, but to do it twice in a row, especially when he knows what's coming. So Kilkenny will have a bit of warning for that to obviously set up for that eventuality. So I would say Kilkenny, to be honest, in the other game.
Right. There should be two absolute crackers. Before you let you go, Sheahan, obviously it's been a couple of weeks since the exit now. I'm not sure at what point you start to post-mortem in terms of what happened for Clare this year. Have you got an idea in your mind in terms of what were the biggest reasons for the couple of no-shows this summer?
To be honest, we haven't had any post-mortem of any sorts except after the games themselves. On a broader, I'm not really sure. No, I haven't really sat down. I've kind of thrown myself back into work trying to distract myself from it. So I've been happy not to think about it. It's obviously been very disappointing. The two games where we thought we were set up well for, and they just didn't manifest in performances on the day. As for broader reasons, I can't really pick out anything, and I don't think it's I don't think there is any major reasons that we didn't perform. But I think it's up to us to figure that out when it comes down to it.
You were speaking a couple of months ago, I think it was with Marie Crowe in the Sunday Independent, about how the post-2013 win was almost tough in a way. You were kind of the most famous man in Ireland for a couple of weeks there. Is the opposite side of that now manifesting itself? Is it a tough county to be in when things go wrong in Clare?
I think all counties are tough to be in when things aren't going how you'd plan them. It's not too bad, to be honest, and I'm sheltered from it some respects. I'm down in Cork in the lab with not that many people who care about hurling. So after big games, wins or loses, I completely get to step away from all that. Some of the lads who teach in Clare and that kind of stuff have said it's been tough, and they've got comments every now and again, but they said it hasn't been too bad. So it's always going to be tough when you're losing these games, but I don't think it's especially bad in Clare or any other.
It seems that that's something you like to do anyway, regardless of the outcome, kind of take yourself away from an environment where hurling is a religion, where you can take yourself away and just be Shane O'Donnell for a while, not just Shane O'Donnell the hurler?
Yeah, well, it's definitely fantastic being able to, like, especially whatever about wins, but losses, especially where you get to just come back into work in the lab the next day and just not talk to anyone about it. And I think it's not just myself. I think anyone would enjoy that. I just in a privileged position to be able to enjoy that. I think any player would tell you that that's exactly what they want. They want to be just doing work to be able to distract them, or just have a long day's work where they don't have to talk about hurling or don't get exposed to people who want to talk to them about it. So I'm in the privileged position that I can enjoy that or deal with that the next day. But some people aren't so lucky.
Is your plan to go back to Boston later on this year, Shane?
No, I won't be going back to Boston unless I can't go back anywhere until I finish my PhD, because I have to do it all here, and it's about a year and a half left or so in that. After that is finished, I do have the option to go back if I want to. The lab over there has offered, so that's a fantastic option to have, but I don't ultimately know what decision I'll make when I finish my PhD, and it's long enough away for me not to have to make that decision yet. But it's a nice option to have, obviously.
For sure. I just wasn't sure when the reports were there. Obviously, they just allowed you to continue your studies back here at home instead of seeing out the summer over there, basically, is how it worked with Harvard. Yeah. For the Fulbright, you can choose basically how long you want to, between 4 to 12 months, and just the way it was starting in the start of September, 6 months was just a nice period, 6-7 months was a nice period for me to get exactly what I need to get done over there and to be able to come back and get into the fray over here. And if it came down to it and I couldn't come back hurling and had to do what I had to do over there, that would have been okay as well. But the fact that I could do both, I just thought it'd be a waste not to avail of that opportunity. You said that being over there and being away from home for a small bit and being in an environment where not a lot of people care about sports or hurling in a PhD lab or whatever it may have been, that it almost enhanced your love for the game. Yeah, I mentioned that to Marie that time. It was interesting. I wasn't really sure. I can be I try to avoid hurling and stuff when I'm in the middle of it, because I'm spending so much time training and travelling for training and all the work that's associated with all of that, that I wouldn't watch games or I wouldn't get involved in all the periphery stuff, just because I feel like I'm spending enough time at it. And I thought when I was going abroad that I wasn't sure how I'd react. I wasn't sure if I'd completely disconnect from it and enjoy my 6-7 months out there and just not even think about hurling. But I was pleased to realise that come January, February, when games started to come back around, the league games, I was that person getting up extra early and on Twitter and seeing everything going on, and then watching the game and going crazy in the kitchen and all that kind of stuff. So it's actually nice to know that I did have that love for the game, like even when I was kind of disconnected from it. I presume you did bring it up at some points during your PhD. How does a scientist in Harvard react when they hear about hurling for the first time? It was strange. I tried to avoid it. There was 2 Irish guys that I was very good friends with out there, and they knew that I was hurler, and I just basically said to them that they weren't allowed to tell our other friends. Most of our other friends were French and American, so like they had no exposure to hurling, obviously. And it was probably maybe January, February, maybe the end of January, where I was just like, all right, this is getting a bit ridiculous. The lads just wanted to tell their friends, about this sport, because they love hurling, they just wanted to talk about it. So I was like, fine. And then it was only a couple of weeks of them being like, I showed them my Facebook, and the lads were showing them videos, and they were just like, I just felt like a bit of an idiot, to be honest, that I didn't show it. They were like, why didn't you, I was really good friends with these guys. They were like, why were you actively going out of your way to hide this from us? And I was just like, I don't know. I felt stupid about it after. I didn't feel like it was necessary, but at the same time, I definitely enjoyed my 3 or 4 months of complete anonymity and all that. But I did feel like a bit of an idiot after it. They reacted extremely positively. They were telling me about how they were going to be coming back for games and all that kind of thing. But it was interesting. It was an interesting experience, but it was actually nice to get away from it completely as well. I don't really regret so much what I said or what I did. It's mad, when we talk about sport and we talk about high-level sport, it's such a thing that there's a cross-pollination of different sports, different coaches going to different backroom teams. I wonder, as a sports person, how much you learned from being around, I presume, brilliant minds in Harvard. Did you grow as a person in something that you can apply to your game eventually? Yeah, absolutely. From a raw talent, hurling point of view, maybe not, but from confidence, leadership, all those kind of more higher-level things when it comes to just playing sport in general. Absolutely being around those kind of people just gives you even just the confidence that you're in that same group as them and you're doing the same kind of things as them. I came back a different person, and several people have said it to me since
in a good way that I'm far more confident, far more willing to put myself out there, and not even just in an academic point of view, but on the pitch, in leadership kind of roles that will be going in training. I'm more willing to put myself into those positions, and I didn't notice it until a couple of people said it, and then I kind of reevaluated what I'd been doing the last 2 weeks, and I was like, yeah, definitely from just meeting those people and walking, doing the same things as them, being in the same labs as them, and listening to what they're saying and telling them what I'm doing, it just definitely instills a huge amount of confidence, and it's one of a lifetime experience that I'll never forget, obviously, but it definitely improved my leadership and just confidence in general, which is obviously a huge part of hurling and any sport.
That's class, and I think that's a lesson for anybody who's considering taking a bit of time, even just for a few months away or abroad from the game. You're enjoying your summer. I understand you're playing at Lahinch before the Irish Open next week.
Yes, I'm playing next Wednesday in the Irish Open Pro-Am, so I'm suitably nervous about that, but I'm looking forward to it.
Well, best of luck there, Sheahan. I appreciate your time this morning. Thanks a million for taking the call.
Not at all. Thanks very much for having me. All the best.